Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall, Psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast. Hope you're having an absolutely sensational week wherever you are. And this amazing planet of ours, look, there's lots of things going on around the world and we won't dwell on that today. Let's keep the show very positive and upbeat and looking forward to what's coming ahead the next week, which is the time of the year where people sort of turn their attention to love and, you know, sort of looking for love or being in love or surprising their loved one with a special gift or a dinner or a box of candy or chocolates, as we call them here in Australia, and flowers and whatever. And yes, we're heading towards Valentine's Day, and it's always a magical time of the year where people really do show their admiration for the person that's really significant or special in their life. But, you know, sometimes people send mysterious cards or messages and things like that to sort of show somebody that they want you to be their Valentine, but they're not going to sign it. It's a surprise. So you have to work out the mystery. So whatever you do this Valentine's Day, I hope you have a good one. So the Simply Tarot card of the week this week is the Magician. Now, the Magician is the element of surprise. And surprises can be either good or bad. Not all surprises are good. You know, sometimes we say the element of surprise and it means, well, hang on a minute. We have to look at what's going on around us. Is there things here that we need to be aware of? Are there things there that are unspoken or unwritten about that we need to sort of figure out? So the element of surprise isn't always bad. And it isn't always good. It can be either way. So the Magician has the 4 tools on the table there. He has the cups, the wands, the swords and the pentacles. So it says that he can create his own opportunities so that, you know, he has all the tools in front of him to create whatever he wants out of life. So if you're feeling in a little bit of a rut this week, then sort of look around you and see what tools or abilities that you have that you might be able to sort of start bringing in something new into your life that will bring some good things into your life and shake things up a little bit. We all have skills and abilities that we sort of lay dormant or put to one side and don't use. Well, this is the time now to bring them back out into the light and say, how can I utilise this skill or this ability that I have? Can I make a little bit of income? Can I, you know, make my life more pleasurable by bringing this back into my life? So it's the element of surprise this week. So don't be surprised if something pops into your head that you weren't expecting. It'll be a good time for you to look at things like that. So we're going to move on to the astrology section of the show. Now, we're in the final, you know, stages of the sun being in Aquarius. So it's happy birthday to, we're not in the final stage, we're about halfway through, a bit over halfway through, the sun sitting in Aquarius. So happy birthday to all the Aquarians. It's a very magical time of the year for them. It's their time to shine. It's their time to strut their stuff. But also it sort of shows the rest of us that it's a time that we need to think outside the square. It's one of those rare times in the year where we've got a license to sort of be a bit abstract, to be a little bit different, to be a little bit, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way, or wow, that's a bit of a shock tactic or a surprise tactic that I wasn't expecting. Again, that word surprise. So it's a time of the year for that. For most Aquarians, they're happy to bask in the glory. It's their birthday time. It's their time to shine. It's their time to sort of say, look, I made another year. And, you know, for some of them, they're on adventures of, you know, some bigger and better horizons because of Pluto being in Aquarius. But a lot of Aquarians are still sort of a little bit in the dark, and particularly ones that have birthdays around now, because Pluto hasn't even begun to bite yet to them. It's sort of, you know, like sitting on the peripheral edges as sort of, you know, sticking their toe in the water, sort of saying, hey, look at me, I'm here. And they're sort of saying, oh, go away, you know, I'm not interested. So as Pluto starts to make his way through Aquarius, it's going to affect Aquarians at different stages. So at the moment, it's the very, very early Aquarians, the first couple of days of Aquarius that are really in the thick of what Pluto's got to say, because Pluto's going to be there a long time. So it's not a fast moving situation for them. It's a slow, transformative situation where Pluto wants to sort of make them sort of bring points of difference in their life to sort of completely transform their life, get rid of the things that are outworn or no longer useful, and sort of put them on a new path. So just be aware of that if you're an Aquarian. But again, happy birthday, Aquarius. We also have the planet of action, Mars, is sitting in Aquarius at the moment. Now, this is affecting the air signs predominantly, which is Aquarius, Libra, and Gemini, the opposite sign of Leo. It is washing over the remaining 8 signs. So if you've got to do something this week that you've really got to sort of really get motivated about, try and think about it in maybe a different light. Think outside the square. Approach it from a different angle. Sort of, you know, come in with a different way of instigating or moving something along, because obviously what you've been doing isn't working or isn't working fast enough. And Mars is saying here, if we step out of our comfort zone a little bit and think outside the square, maybe think differently, ask someone else's opinion and maybe listen this time and sort of see whether you can implement, this will be the way to break the deadlock of things that haven't been moving fast enough in your life that you've been trying to push along. And I know lots of people are feeling quite frustrated at the moment. Doesn't matter what your star sign is, that they sort of feel as if they're stuck. Things have got so far and then, they've got bogged down in the clay. Well, this is where Mars is asking you to think outside the square a little bit, and maybe we can just break that deadlock and start to move things along again, which would be very, very nice. So, if you can't, or if, even by doing that, you still feel as if you're in the quagmire and you're not getting the traction that you want, just be patient, just keep thinking, just keep looking at it. Sort of, there may be another brilliant idea that'll come to you by just being chilled and being focused on, this is what I've achieved so far, this is what I've been able to do. Look at it again with a fresh set of eyes to see if there's anything else that you can come up with. We are heading into the time of the year where people search for love, and I mentioned that at the top of the show. We're heading towards Valentine's Day. Now, Venus, the planet of love and affection, is sitting in Pisces. Now, this will be affecting the water signs more so than the others, but it's, the water signs being Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio, and the opposite sign of Virgo. It will wash across the remaining 8 signs. So if anybody, it doesn't matter what your star sign is, if you're looking for love this Valentine's Day, then you need to put yourself in places where you can potentially meet somebody that has the same outlook, that thinks the same way, that wants the same things out of life as you do. But we need to be focusing on what type of venue or where do we go looking for love, particularly this Valentine's Day with Venus in Pisces. We need to be going somewhere that's close to water. So either close to water, near, still water, ocean water, river water, lake water, it doesn't matter, something towards water, but also something that's quite creative. So, the Pisces energy is quite creative. So that could be the cinema, going to a show, going to a concert, going to something that you consider has a creative sort of flair, that is, an art gallery for say, an art exhibition, something that's creative. Now, creative brings in a lot of different areas now, because lots of people sort of look at things that are done with computer technology and AI and light shows and things like that as creative. So it's whatever you see as something being creative that tickles your fancy, that's where you need to be. Go to an exhibition on a light show if that's what you really enjoy, because then the chances of you meeting someone there that has the same passion as you do is really elevated. There's no point in going to look at the rose garden if you're not interested in roses, and then you're going to meet somebody that's a mad keen gardener and you couldn't think of anything worse. So, we need to be putting ourselves in locations with the potential of possibly meeting somebody or making a new friend, that's somebody that has the same vision, has the same passions as we do, that enjoys things that we enjoy in our lives. And by doing that, I think there'll be lots of people that are going to actually meet somebody around this time of the year, not necessarily on Valentine's Day, but, around this, week leading up to it, or a few days leading up to it now. But, look at this next week as the opportunity. If you're searching for love now, the time is ripe. Get out there, strut your stuff, make sure you're well presented and things like that, and that you're open to sort of, love doesn't always come in the same formula that it did in the last time, because if it did in the last time, well, last time didn't work. We want something different and fresh, and we want, you've evolved and grown, and hopefully the person that you're going to attract towards you can see those beautiful qualities in you, and will want to get to know you further and want to spend more time with you. So it's a really positive time of the year for love. We also have Mercury, the planet of communication, is sitting in Pisces. So they're not holding hands, but they're fairly close together. So this again is sort of, adding weight to the Venus in Aquarius, in Pisces here, that with Mercury here, make sure that if you're going to meet somebody, or, you meet somebody at a concert, or, in the rose garden or whatever, be friendly, be approachable. Don't be too bombastic. Don't be too pushy. Sometimes just a smile and, lift your head up, and a little bit of let the eyes do the talking, and, say, hi, how are you? And sort of, wait for them to sort of respond. If they don't give you any response, then move on. You don't need to make a fool of yourself, but you've been pleasant, you've been polite. And sometimes by just that gentle approach, it sort of attracts more people towards you to want to respond because they don't feel threatened in any way. They feel very comfortable with the fact that, oh, you acknowledge that I'm here. Yes, I'd like to say hello back. And, then the banter can start from there. And that's a good thing. So it's not a bad thing. I think, make sure that your communication is clear, but not bossy in any way and not loud or be yourself by all means, but, have a little bit of gentleness there with it as well. Now, I don't often talk about the moon because the moon moves so quickly. Every 2.5 days, the moon changes signs. But this week, I thought I'd talk about the moon because the moon has just gone into Sagittarius, be there for another 48 hours. Now, with the moon in Sag, this sort of adds weight to sort of what we've been talking about with, where to go to look for love and things like that. And don't just leave it till Valentine's Day. We've got a little bit of a run up to it. Start focusing on it now. With the moon in Sag, it's asking you to sort of step out of your comfort zone a little bit emotionally. Open those horizons. If you've always only ever gone out with people that are the same race as you, maybe expand that out a little bit. There's wonderful cultures around the world, and it's not frowned upon this day and age by people sort of marrying or dating somebody out of their culture. It's actually encouraged that, that we're starting to become one big melting pot that, years ago it was, I can remember when I was a young girl that, it was frowned upon if you didn't go out with somebody, if you were white, you didn't go out with somebody that was white. I mean, how dare you look at somebody else that might have even been Greek or Italian here in Australia. It was still white, I might add, but, that was frowned upon. Where today we see such mixed relationships. And I think it's a good thing because we're learning about other cultures. We're learning to be more tolerant of other people and their belief systems and their religions and their food and different things. And I think it makes the world a much more interesting place. So, make sure you open your heart up a little bit in that way too, that, maybe, just maybe that person that's going to be significant or special in your life doesn't come in the package that you were expecting. Maybe they come from a different culture or a different background, and that's okay too. Finally, I want to talk about Uranus. Now, I've been talking about Uranus for many, many years on this show because Uranus has been in Taurus for a very long time now. And I'm pleased to say that Uranus has finally stopped going retrograde or backwards. It's in a stationary position at the moment, which means he's going to start to go forward soon. So what this means for all the earth signs particularly, but Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, and the opposite sign of Scorpio, is the fact that things are going to start to heat up. Things are going to start to ramp up very, 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 very quickly. So be very aware of this very electric, sort of uncomfortable sort of energy that might be starting to course through your veins. You're starting to feel uncomfortable, restless. You don't understand why. You can't focus on your job. You're forgetting things. It's just the change in the energy of Uranus as it starts to get ready to go forward. And he's going to sort of only be here till the end of April. So what he's got to do in this next 6 to 8 weeks is quite phenomenal. He's got to get in there, tidy everything up, bring about any changes that need to happen, and they will be sudden. If there is a change that comes along, it will be very sudden. It won't be something that you've seen leading up to for 6 months. It'll be like snap of the fingers sudden. So be aware of being very cautious about what you verbalize, particularly if you're one of those signs, that, what you send out to the universe is listening and may just accommodate. So be very careful about that. But it's also a very positive time where we can clear the final bits of debris or things out of your life that have been holding you back or weighing you down so that we can get ready for sort of some new adventures, some new opportunities. This will flow on to the other 8 signs, but nowhere near as dramatic for them. But just be aware, no matter what your star sign is, something can come out of nowhere and you've got to be able to think on your feet and make a snap decision. It's not the time when you've got 3 weeks to think about it and sort of bring your decision. This will be, I need a decision now. And, just be aware of that. And my only suggestion to that is if you're put in that predicament where you've got to make a snap decision, go with what your first feeling is. If it feels right, do it. If it doesn't, walk away. Don't sit there and dilly-dally or go to and fro, backwards and forwards across the tennis court. That's not the time for that. It's that first response is the right answer for this situation. And not everything do we need to take on board. Sometimes we can just comfortably say thank you, but no thank you. So we're going to take our first caller, which is Connie in Winnipeg in Canada. Are you there, Connie?
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Connie. And I can answer it. Oh,
yes,
Connie.
actually I do.
Sorry. Sorry,
That's
I
okay.
wasn't
That's
focused
okay. I go by both. Don't worry about that. Um,
Okay.
I have an estranged son, and I'd like to know, do you see
Mm-hmm.
anything that he will be calling? It's been 5 years now with no contact.
Mm-hmm. And can I have his first initial, please, sweetie?
His initial or mine?
No, his,
His
please.
is RD.
Okay. RD, okay. Just so that I'm tuning into the right person. It's really interesting. He's still angry. And I don't,
I don't
and
know
I'm not
about what.
someone. No, I was just going to say, I don't understand why he's angry, because to me, he doesn't have a right to be angry. And yet he's still angry. It's like he hasn't processed anything. Whatever caused the reason for the two of you to not communicate, he hasn't got past that. In some ways, I'm going to say he's being very childish. It's like I don't think he fully understood what went down between the two of you. He's got his version of what he sees as his truth. You've got your version, and and neither one is right or wrong. Somewhere collectively in that is the answer. But the thing is, he's not seeing past his own anger, and I don't understand why he's angry. He keeps sort of, every time I try and go into his soul, he keeps trying to push me away, keeps saying, I'm not going to discuss this. This is not up for discussion. And he's very adamant about it. Look, I don't think in the short term, Corinne, that you're going to get the answer that you want, because I don't think he's ready to sort of come forward yet. Look, you didn't raise him to be bad mannered, and that's what I'm seeing him being now. To me, he's got bad manners. Why can't he reach out and say, "Hey, Mum, let's get together, let's, have a coffee, let's do something." He's not doing that, and every time you come into his mind, he tries to push you away. Now, when somebody tries to keep doing that after such a length of time, that to me says, Corinne, that he's guilty, that he feels. He's trying to not look at it because he doesn't want to take responsibility for his part in this. He's not willing to look at it. So without you going into any great detail, to me, what caused this, to me, was something that wasn't that serious.
I don't think so either. I've tried, and I have a grandson, and my grandson says, he tells me, Baba, no, don't text him no more. I said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't.
Yeah. That's really sad, because to me, as I said, I don't want you to air it on national television around the world of what happened, but to me, it wasn't. His behaviour didn't warrant what happened. That's, to me, it was trivial. And, he's got to get over this. I think he's angry with himself. And until such times as he gets over that and starts to put this into the context of what it really is, I don't think there's going to be any contact. Look, I know it's been 5 years, and I wish I could say it was only going to be another couple of weeks or another couple of months, but I'm still seeing sort of quite a distance ahead of us. All as I can suggest to you to do is just keep sending him loving, positive energy, no matter what. Every time he comes into your mind, do that. Without him really consciously understanding this, all as he's going to keep getting is this wall of positive energy. He's not going to know where it's coming from, but it might sort of start to break down that very hard shell that he's put up around himself of not letting anybody in. He's not going to let anybody hurt him. He's not going to let anybody do this, that, or the other. Not that I believe he did any of that, but in his mind, this is what he's doing. So if you can keep doing that, it will eventually break down that massive great brick wall that he's built up around himself, and he will soften. I know when he does contact you, and they're showing me a 3, and I don't believe it's 3 months, and I hope it's not 3 years, but it's going to be very sudden. It's sort of going to be almost like you've come to terms with, well, that's it. There's nothing more I can do. I've been sending you positive energy for so long now, and nothing seems to be breaking down this barrier between us. I'm just going to put it to one side. It's almost as if you've given up. But it's not as if you've given up. You've just put it to one side so that it's no longer affecting you emotionally and no longer consuming you. And once you do that, when you get to that place organically, it's interesting that he sort of shifts his energy and he reaches out to you out of the blue. And and I don't even know that the first contact is what I'd call terribly friendly. It's sort of like, you might get a text message, "Oh, get out of my head," or something like that. And you think, well, I didn't know I was in your head, like I haven't contacted you, I haven't done anything. But take that as the first step. So what he's looking for, if you respond in an angry or an aggressive manner, that'll be it. But if you just sort of, send a smiley face, or I wouldn't send a love heart, but just say, well, I wasn't, just send something that's very bland. He can't react to that. It's going to be, well, that wasn't the reaction I was expecting. So then I think there will be a little bit more communication. It'll be a very slow process. It's not going to be automatically that you get back to having a loving, mother-son relationship. It's going to take time. But over time, he's going to let out a lot of things that he feels that he's been hurt by, and not all of it's connected to you. It's been just a series of things that happened in his life, and you seem to be the one that copped the brunt. But he will return, and you will build a different type of mother-son relationship, and I think a much stronger one. So I hope that's helped you, Corinne.
Yes, thank you very much. It does bother me, believe me, Amanda. I'm his mother.
Yeah.
That's my only child. And
Yes.
something
And it's
went awry.
heartbreaking.
I don't know what.
No, but you will know in time, and it's just it's a accumulation of things, and you cop the brunt of it all. You cop the blame, and it wasn't you that was to blame. That's the stupid part about it. But he will be back. So I wish you well with that, Corinne.
Thank you very much, and you have a lovely day yourself.
Thank you, sweetie. I will. So we're going to talk with Patricia now in Chicago and Illinois. Are you there, Patricia?
Hello?
Hello, Patricia.
Hi.
Hi, Patricia. Do you have a question I can answer for you, please, sweetie?
Do you see me finding a person or a healing modality to help me with getting off of a prescribed medication?
Oh, okay. That's a really interesting question, Patricia. I feel for you that you're going through this, and that you're dealing with a prescribed medication that obviously you feel isn't conducive to your health. That you want to take some positive steps to try and sort of eradicate this out of your life. It's interesting because I think that what you're sort of needing is somebody that's going to look at the whole picture, not somebody that's just going to look at, okay, I'm addicted to, or I'm stuck on this pain medication, or whatever it may be, but looking at the whole picture, that how did we get there? Was it through, a particular accident or an illness or something that led us on this path, and understanding the emotions that are connected to it. I want to see you find somebody that looks at the whole picture. Look, it's not for me to sit here and say, go and look for a particular type of practitioner. Only you'll know what you need to be looking, what's right for you when you're guided to that sort of particular person. But I feel it's somebody that needs to work on the whole body, the emotions, the physical, the whole package, not just one area. It's not like sort of say, go off and have a massage and they'll release the tension out of your body and then you'll be able to cope better. I don't think that's enough. It needs to be a whole thing. So have you looked at going to sort of some complementary therapies in the past?
Yeah, it's just that with this particular one, it's a very, very slow process. And I know that there's different healing modalities out there. And yeah, it's something that I was never advised about when I went on. It's kind of like there's a lot of people now coming forth because there's a lot of suffering going on trying to get off of it. But I know that there's healing modalities out there also as well. Outside of the box is more where I'm thinking.
Yeah, but look, I'm sort of, I think you need to sort of go with what feels right to you. Do you know what I mean? I could say to you, go off and do, say, Reiki for argument's sake. And you might say to me, well, that doesn't feel right to me. And yet somebody else could be singing the praises of a Reiki master and, you know, they've had amazing results in all different ways. And yet for you personally, that may be not the right path. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I think there needs to be somebody that heals not just the emotions, but the physical side as well, because I think this is a fairly complex problem that led you to having, you know, this problem of, you know, prescription medication that you can't seem to get yourself off of. You know, like there's got to be reasons for that, you know, and I'm not a doctor and we're not usually allowed to discuss medical things because we're not legal practitioners. But on an energetic level, to me, there seems to be sort of like pockets of blockage that I'm picking up. You know, as I scan around the peripheral edges of your body, there's pockets there where we've locked in emotions and trauma and things that even go way back to sort of early childhood. And it's these things that I think need to be released. It's like we've got to release one thing at a time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so look, if I was to make a suggestion, I'd sort of say maybe look at something along the lines of Bowen therapy, but because that is it doesn't just work on one area, it works on many areas of the body, you know, on the emotional and the physical and everything else. But, you know, again, it's got to be your choice. You've got to feel comfortable with the practitioner and the person that you're trusting your energy to, as well as, you know, listening or being able to listen to their advice. And, you know, just because we find somebody that might be good for you doesn't mean that if it feels wrong to you, then don't do it. You know, like if they suggest something and it doesn't feel right to you, then it's not right for you. You know, where 99% of what they're working on with you may be really comfortable and really great and you'll see great progress. What they're showing me on a soul level, that I do feel that you're going to be guided to the right practitioner, the person that's going to help you. And I'm going to say she's blonde, she's quite skinny, and you look at her and you think, I don't know whether I like you. You're a bit ditzy. You know what I mean? She seems to be a bit off with the pixie. She's talking about one thing 1 minute and then she's jumping over to another idea another minute and then back to something else. I'm going to say rise above that sort of ditzy rendition of her, because actually what she's doing is she's tuning into different parts of the body really quickly and she's jumping from one situation to another and she's sort of putting it all into her mind like a computer and storing it, and then she sort of comes out with her conclusion at the end of it. But she's actually very good at what she does, and I feel over time you'll feel more connected to her and you'll feel more comfortable with her. The first one, you walk out of there and you scratch your head and think, well, I don't know whether that was really what I wanted or I needed, but I'll go back a second time, and the second time you're more comfortable. What they were showing me is that I believe that you can get off this medication in the next 12 months and be very happy and healthy. So I hope that's helped you, Patricia. We've come to the end of the show and I have to say goodbye to you.
Thank you. Blessings to you.
You're very welcome. So that's, you know, it's really interesting when people have health issues like this, like Patricia's got, you know, not so much an addiction, but she's relying on prescription medication to get her through the day and she wants to get off it and she hasn't been able to find answers. Look, there's lots of different healing modalities out there. You've got to find the one that works for you. Bowen's been around a long time, but there's lots of amazing therapies out there. So make sure you choose the one that feels comfortable to you. So as I said at the beginning of the show, we're heading towards Valentine's Day. It's only a few days away now. And it's a really interesting time of the year where, you know, lovers will sort of go out and spend a lot of money on candy and flowers and romantic dinners and whatever. And, you know, for those of you that are on your own and maybe not wanting a partner, maybe treat yourself to a nice candlelit dinner or something like that, something that makes your heart sing. So this week I want to leave you with a love song that, look, I agonised over what to sort of suggest this week as the song of the week, and I kept coming back to this one. And a lot of people are going to say it's because I'm a huge fan, but I think it sort of spells right across the board for love in many, many ways. And it's David Cassidy's I Think I Love You. And I know that it's one of those songs that, you know, once you get it in your head, you can't get rid of it. And my favourite clip of that is, you know, back in the 90s with his amazing drummer, Terry Cote, and I'm wearing her beautiful jewellery today that she made for me. And this is actually the Cassidy Rose that she made in honour of her wonderful friend David after he passed, and it's something that I wear with great pride. And I love Terry's jewellery. She's made a lot of jewellery for me over the years, but I want to leave you with this song by David Cassidy, back from the 70s, I Think I Love You, and I know here at the network we certainly do love you all. Until next week, bye for now.